guys, this week's champion trends feature Sona, Thresh, Hecarim, Braum, Maokai, and Lee Sin. I'm Lindsay Geektron with ZAM Network, and it's a support/jungle edition of LoL Kings League Trends. Let's dive into Summoner's Rift. This week, the champions on the increased pick rates include Sona, Graves, Vayne, Ahri, and Hecarim. The most recent patch in League saw changes to about 30 champs. The Maven of the Strings, however, saw both visual and gameplay updates. Hymn of Valor's base damage was reduced by 10 from 50 to 40, and the cooldown was upped to 8 seconds. The passive aura from her kit has been updated to an active skill, which basically means less passive strength. However, now Sona does more burst, so things kind of even out. While her AP scaling has been buffed slightly, building utility rather than damage is still preferable for the support role. Her E, Song of Celerity, saw an increase in cooldown from 7 seconds to 12, but the movement speed bonuses are 2 to 3 times higher than before to compensate. At level 4, leveling her E would be a wise move, as the 13% self-movement boost and the 10% aura movement boost could help out if your lane needs the extra mobility. It also does a 40% slow from the power chord effect on a target, which could help you escape from a losing trade. Crescendo got a visual update. The particles have been resized to match its hitbox. Enemies also dance 50% faster while stunned, which is kind of hilarious. With all of these reworks in place, Sona is not only more fun to play, but also more viable in this meta. Look for her mute self floating around the Rift for some time. Decreases in pick rates this week see Lucian down over 5% from last week. Lee Sin, Caitlyn, Thresh, and Gragas follow up. There's no other way around it. The Chain Warden saw a lot of nerfs from the last patch, which could spell disaster for one of the reigning top supports of this season. The Lantern that saves, Dark Passage, now only shields the first ally to be close at hand. Thresh himself will also receive that shield. This impacts his mid to late game potential, but not his laning phase. However, the worst is yet to come. Thresh's ultimate, the Box, no longer deals additional damage to opponents when they break through more than one wall. The slow still applies based on the extra number of walls an enemy moves through. The translation to all of these changes is that Thresh now does far less damage and has less utility, which kind of boils down to less of a use for the guy with the green skeleton head. With the reworks to 29 other champs, it's likely Thresh will be spending less time in bot lane and more time terrorizing the Shadow Isles. Increases in win rate this week include Corki, Vayne, Kayle, Janna, and Hecarim. It's certainly been a long while since we've seen viable Hecarim plays on the Rift. Thresh's buddy saw more buffs for patch 4.13 and as such has an increase in win rates. Hecarim's passive, Warpath, was buffed by 5 at all levels, while his Q, Rampage, saw a decrease in mana costs. Since patch 4.13 adjusted so many champions, everything has been reshuffled. Because Lee Sin, Eve, and Elise all saw nerfs, Hecarim can make a slight comeback in the jungle. He clears fast and can be very tanky depending on his build. He has initiation and he could dive at early levels. Plus, who doesn't like seeing an arcade skin sparkle in and save the day? The long-lasting effects of 4.13 are still being sorted through. However, it is entirely possible we'll be seeing more of the Shadow of War prancing around the jungle for some weeks to come. Champions on the decrease in win rates this week see Fiora at the top of the list, while Urgot, Braum, Lucian, and Gragas round it out. Ever since his release, Braum has been a hot topic. He was OP at first, and now the nerfs are slowly trickling in as the balance team figures out the best course of action. Concussive Blows now does less base magic damage and less damage per level. Winter's Bite now has lower damage at all levels. Stand Behind Me now costs more mana at lower levels, which basically makes the ability far less spammable. Like another support on this show this week, the biggest change to Braum was to his ultimate, Glacial Fissure. Rank 1 and 2 of the ability had the knockup duration and slow reduced heavily. Instead of a 1.5 second knockup for the first target, it now scales from 1 second. The slow percentage also scales from 40% instead of a flat 60% at all levels. When an enemy leaves Glacial Fissure's field of ice, they'll have an easier time as the slow was nerfed from 1.5 seconds to 0.25 seconds. This will prevent you from being locked down and deleted, but it also means that Braum's time as one of the top supports is coming to a close, at least until people learn how to replay him. Champs on the increased bans list this week are Morgana, Rengar, Nidalee, Maokai, and Fizz. The Twisted Treant is seeing an increase in bans this week after the mega patch that was 4.13. Maokai was majorly buffed in patch 4.12, and we're still seeing the result of those effects. Generally, he saw a reduction of mana costs on all abilities. Twisted Advance does percentage HP damage, and the ability resets tower aggro. His passive, Sap Magic, gives Maokai sustain. Each time a spell is cast near him, he gains a charge of magical sap. 5 stacks of magical sap charges his next basic attack to heal for 7% of his max health. Vengeful Maelstrom now moves with Maokai when cast. Because of all of the updates, he is pretty solid against nearly all lane matchups, except for Lulu and Nidalee. Be sure to keep an eye out for Maokai in solo queue for the time being. Finally, the decreased ban rates this week have Jax down over 10% from last week. Lee Sin, Braum, Lulu, and Lucian complete the list. Everyone has been talking about the Blind Monk for the past month or so. Patch 4.13 has laid a lot of arguments to rest, and it looks like top lane Lee Sin is, simply put, no longer viable. Let's go through the changes. Lee's W, Safeguard, now has a shield duration of 2 seconds, down from 4. This will translate him into not being as tanky as before this patch. Riot removed Never Skip Leg Day on his E, which means that Cripple no longer reduces enemy attack speed, leaving just a reduction in move speed. The nerf to his E means that Lee Sin will not be able to duel as effectively and will be unable to kill priority AD carries very easily. All of this means that while top lane Lee Sin is dead Jim, he is still a very viable jungler, as his damage output is still the same. Oh, good. And here I was worried. /sarcasm. And that does it for this week's show. Please be sure to check back every week for the latest League of Legends picks, bans, and win rates. Please be sure to like and comment below if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, lolking.net, for more great content. I'm Lindsay Geektron. You can follow me on Twitch at Lindsay Geektron. Thanks everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.